Rachel Chandler tie in with all the other folks? Well, here's her and Bill Clinton on a plane together. And she was a photographer at a 2010 performance by Marina Abramovic. She was also present at Abramovic's performance at the LA Museum of Modern Art. This was the event where all the celebrities ate the human cake. Rachel's close friend Nikki Hilton, sister of Paris, married into the Rothschild family. And here's Rachel herself standing next to Matt Rothschild. Now in 2013, Chandler married Tom Guinness, a member of the Guinness family, which of course makes the beer of the same name. Another member of the Guinness family married into the Rothschilds, but the real critical connection here is with Edward Guinness, who married a woman named Claire Hazel. Listen to what Maria Farmer has to say about Claire Hazel.
I don't know if you know about Claire Hazel. Do you know about her?
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, she's someone you really need to look into her because she's a key co-conspirator that no one discusses. And Guylaine got her married off to one of the what are they called? The Guinness family. So now she's Lady Claire. And you're not going to believe this, Whitney. You know the movie Eyes Wide Shut? It was filmed in Lady Claire's mansion, estate.
Well, how about that? The movie Eyes Wide Shut was filmed in Claire Hazel's mansion. Now that's interesting, because another shooting location was Mentmore Towers, an estate that was owned by the Rothschild family. So Eyes Wide Shut, a movie about world elites being part of an occult secret society, was filmed in the properties of two families that are involved in the Epstein affair. Absolutely incredible. So from all this, a connection between Rachel Chandler and Jeffrey Epstein is established via Chandler's relationship to Claire Hazel. But there's another, even tighter connection between Rachel and the pedophile. In 2017, she and Walter Pierce put out a list of Midland's newest models. Two of the models on that list came from another modeling agency, MC2, which was owned by Jean-Luc Brunel. A 2015 court document alleges that Brunel acquired passports for some of his female models, and then trafficked them to, you guessed it, Jeffrey Epstein. So Rachel Chandler, a woman whose social network posts stuff like this, is connected with all these people. Tell me with a straight face that this is just a hoax. Go ahead, I dare you. The case of Rachel Chandler is particularly noteworthy, because it goes to show just how far down this whole thing trickles. It also gives us a look at what the bottom of the hierarchy is like. On one end, you have the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in the world, such as the Rothschilds and the Bronfmans, and on the other, you have people like Rachel Chandler and her friends, who don't bear much prominence at all and are much closer to the average everyday person. But nonetheless, people on this end of the hierarchy are well connected to those above them, and bear all the signs of being part of this sick, demented underworld. So these are the main players in the international sex trafficking and abuse of children. But there's someone else who's tied up with all this, and he's the sitting president of the United States. It's a well-known fact that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were friends, and he even took a trip on the Lolita Express. He has also been pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell a bunch of times, and he attended a party held on Robert Maxwell's yacht. Trump was also friends with Roy Cohn, who was both his lawyer and his mentor, and here he is walking out of Trump Tower with Ronald Lauder. Additionally, Trump's labor secretary, Wilbur Ross, used to work for the Rothschilds and was the one who helped Trump out while his Atlantic City casinos were in jeopardy of foreclosure. So he's definitely rubbed shoulders with a few of these individuals. But besides his connections, Maria Farmer has stated her belief of Trump being involved in Epstein's crimes.
When I called the FBI, I'm going to tell you what I told them. I said I have a report to make on someone that I've been working for that recently kidnapped me. And they said, who are you talking about? And I said, okay, well, his name is Jeffrey Epstein. And I said, but here's what's important. It also involves the Clinton family. It involves Bill Clinton for sure. It involves Donald Trump. And I said, the game show host. I thought he was a game show host. I didn't know who he was. And later, like, I thought it was funny that I said that, but I said, you know, the game show host, Donald Trump.
So when you put all these things together, it starts to shine a rather incriminating light upon Trump. However, there is other evidence here that would work in his favor. In a 2018 interview, Brad Edwards, the attorney for many of Epstein's victims, had this to say about Trump.
The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk, I'll give you as much time as you want, I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009.
So out of all the prominent people that were connected to Epstein, Trump was the only one who was willing to cooperate with the investigation. Edwards also asserted in court documents that Trump barred Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago estate after learning that Epstein sexually assaulted an underage girl at the club. In addition to Edwards, former Miami detective Mike Fiston stated that in hundreds of interviews with hundreds of witnesses, no one has ever identified Trump as being involved in any kind of sexual activity with underage girls. Furthermore, Virginia Roberts stated in a 2016 deposition that Trump didn't have sex with any of the girls. She also said that he flirted with her, but later corrected herself and said that he didn't. She then answered no when asked if Trump was ever on Epstein's island or his New Mexico ranch. However, in that same year, a woman named Katie Johnson filed 2 lawsuits alleging that at the age of 13, Trump raped her at a party hosted by Epstein. But as it turns out, both her lawsuits were dropped and her allegations against Trump were completely fabricated. Now, during the 2016 election, strategic intelligence firm Fusion GPS attempted to find close ties between Trump and Epstein, working closely with journalist Ken Silverstein. However, they ultimately failed to find any truly damning links, and Silverstein later said that he could not make a strong case for Trump being super close to Epstein, and that Trump's ties were mild compared to Bill Clinton's. And finally, we have both former NYPD detective James Rothstein and former Nexium publicist Frank Parlato attesting to Trump's inculpability and also to him cracking down on child sex trafficking.
They try to tie him to pedophilia and all this stuff.
I never, in all the years that I worked, ever had any information like that on Donald Trump. And I knew the big boys. And it's like I say, Cohen and them guys, there never was any mention of that with Trump.
But in Trump's case, you never heard it.
No. And in those days, listen, if he would have been, we'd have had it. There's some stuff in the works right now that some of this stuff that's been exposed, especially on this human trafficking, pedophilia, and the stuff with the church, is not happening on its own.
Do you think Trump is actively trying to destroy it, to bring it down?
Yes, and I can't tell you why I know that.
I think a person who deserves some credit for this is actually the administration of Donald Trump. Because had he not been elected, this organization would have continued unabated, and they would have only grown. It was a change of temperature in the DOJ that allowed this to happen. His appointee in the Eastern District of New York helped set the stage. So I don't deserve solely the credit. I brought it to their attention. But they did the hard part. They went against the Clintons and actually indicted these people.
So it seems fairly certain that not only is Trump not involved in child sex abuse, but that he's actually making efforts to curb this epidemic. And from that, one comes to the conclusion that Donald Trump, despite having ties to a few of the main players, is not actually a member of the global pedophile ring. As for everyone else, they are part of a circle that's so close and tightly knit that it's quite astonishing. But what's really shocking and substantial is how many of the people in the circle are tied to 2 or more major child abuse scandals. Cases like the Dutroux affair, the Franklin cover-up, the NXIVM sex cult, the Rosenstein-Cohen blackmail ring, and the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking network are all things that would seem like isolated incidents that nobody would ever imagine being connected in any way. But the fact of the matter is that they are. The bitter reality is that this world has not been run by democracy, not by aristocracy, nor technocracy, nor corporatocracy. This world has been ruled by the pedocracy. It obtained its power without our knowledge nor our consent, and has entrenched itself in all our major institutions, in business, in politics, in finance, in religion, in sports, and in entertainment. Each of these institutions have seen countless children abused and tortured, never to be found, never to grow up, never to have their stories told, nor their voices heard. The legal system and law enforcement agencies have long failed these children. But there's another major institution that's to blame, another institution that is complicit in all of this, the mainstream media. They've not only halted the exposure of the crimes against children, but also enabled them. By labeling this topic a conspiracy theory, by refusing to report the facts about elite pedophilia, and by smearing and censoring those who wish to expose the horrific crimes, the established news networks, along with other communications companies, have played a critical part in the continued existence of the pedocracy. Without control over the press, the elite pedophiles would not have been able to flourish and remain hidden as long as they have. In this installment, you saw the many faces of the pedocracy and just how deeply entrenched it is in our society. But in part 3, you will see what role the media has played and how they are the true enemy of the people.